So Amber Roundtree, Board of Education member, weighing in there. Joining us here in studio, we really appreciate these folks, very busy folks coming by to share some of their knowledge and information on what's going on with some of the school goings on right now. Of course, so we welcome in from WBIR, Becca Habegger and Mike Donila. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. If I'd have known Amber Roundtree was going to ramble for 15 minutes, I would have stayed in bed this morning.
That's what I like about Mike. He just cuts right to the chase.
He's like a little ray of sunshine that comes into the room, isn't he? He just brightens up the room.
Survey monkey.
Survey monkey.
She could have just said survey monkey is lame and left it at that.
I think that should be your new...
I'm just kidding, Amber. I know you're listening.
That should be your new nickname. Survey monkey.
Survey monkey.
Mike Survey Monkey Donila. I like that. So Becca and Mike from WBIR, you guys have been covering education, and Becca, you just recently started covering education.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it fun?
Oh yeah, it's a barrel of survey monkeys,
isn't it? Nice. There seems to be a never-ending stream of things happening. Of course, now the latest being this survey. Now, have y'all both got a chance to see the survey?
I was working on a story yesterday about abortion-related bills. So,
I voted 3,000 times.
I mean seriously. But if you're gonna, they offered the survey up on their website yesterday, the Knox County School website. You click on it, and it goes to a SurveyMonkey website. We went through this morning on the show the survey. There's never a point where it just asks you if you're in favor of the balanced calendar or not. There's never a point where it asks you if you're in favor of the traditional calendar or not. It asks many roundabout, philosophical, weigh out what's the best thing here, or do you strongly agree, do you strongly disagree, all these different things. But the problem is there's only one question on the entire survey, which is an unsecured survey. I live in Knox County. I don't have any kids that go or I don't live in Knox County. I don't have any kids go to Knox County schools. I was able to go on and I can fill the survey out as many times as I want. So I'm not a stakeholder in Knox County schools, but I can fill out the survey as many times as I want just by clicking on the link. The problem is, too, is there's only one question on that entire survey that's actually required that you answer. And oddly enough, the only one that's required that you answer is, what is your relationship to the Knox County schools? Whether you're a student, whether you're a teacher, whether you're an employee, whether you're a parent or a Knox County employer, or a variation combination of those. That's the only one that's required to answer. Everything else, you can just click next. So basically, you can sit down and fill out the survey and just answer that one question and turn the survey in. So it's an invalid survey.
I just voted 3,001 times.
Are you looking at it right now?
Yeah.
It's really pointless. It's pointless because you would think that people who are so ingrained in gathering data, as the Knox County school system seems to be, especially administration, that they would hold the data very near and dear. The problem is all this data is invalid, because if I can get on there and vote several times, Terry can get on there and vote several times, any listener we had on this morning from anywhere in the world can get on and vote several times. That kind of invalidates any bit of data they get from that survey. I would think. Do you all get the feeling that they're just going to go ahead and go with this balanced calendar, kind of regardless of what anybody says right now?
Well, it's all going to come down to the school board vote in the end. So if you have five, hold on, I had to vote 3,002 times. If you have five school board members that support it, then yeah. Deep down, I think the school. I don't know how this is going to fall. Whether there are the 5 votes to support it or not.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. I do think that the board members, even those who get put in that pro superintendent camp, I think they see through this survey monkey as a fraud.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to take this survey serious. I mean, they can keep running it, but at the end of the day, it'll come down to the votes of the school board members, and I think it'll come down to how many emails they get, because people who take the time to email and call their school board members those are the people that I think the board members actually listen to.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
Yeah, I was going to say I attended one of those community meetings, specifically one for child care providers.
Yeah.
You know, they have a huge stake in this, of course. And they've had so many community meetings for parents, for child care providers over the last how many months. It's almost not enough just to attend those. As
Sure.
Mike said, you know, if those people really have a feeling either way,
Sure.
if they email their school board member, that's probably the best way to get their voices heard.
Sure, and absolutely. I mean, and you were apparently you were one of the lucky ones that was able to attend that meeting because it was talked about right before the child care provider meeting was. But we found out just looking for the parent meetings for the forum meetings, it was not publicized widely. And then when you did find the link to the schedule, it wasn't just a schedule that came up on their site. You actually had to go find the link that was on the side of one of the pages. You then had to download a Excel form to find the schedule, and then the schedule didn't make any sense. So between that and this survey, to me it just keeps seeming like, look, we're going to do this, and we're just we're going to give you the perception that you're involved in the process, but when it comes down to it, it's just going to be the Board of Education that's deciding. And the superintendent. So we got the balanced calendar thing going on. That's been the big focus. But then right before that, we were talking about, and Becca, I know you were covering this quite a bit. We were talking about the Board of Education and the law director and Broad grant acceptances and Knox County taxpayers footing the bill for the Knox County schools to hire the county attorney. What's going on there?
Sure. Well, we've seen a couple of different memos in the last week or so from County Law Director Richard Bud Armstrong. The Saturday I was looking at one regarding the road fellow, right? And so, I mean, basically what it comes down to is, a couple of board members were taking issue with the fact that McIntyre had signed a grant agreement with the Broad program. And a lot of it comes down to semantics. The director says, well, it's a contract. The McIntyre says, well, it's an agreement. But the point is, and if you look through the Armstrong's memo on that, the board's policy might actually be in contrast with Tennessee code annotated. So, board members might actually taxpayers footing the bill. And I think it comes down, let's just looking at the numbers, also called that a school district hires gets paid at least $90,000. That's the minimum salary. And here in the Knox County School District, according to Armstrong, the finance director generally uses about 30% on top of that to cover benefits and taxes, which the Broad program requires districts to pay their scholars or their fellows, that is. So looking at that, basically $90,000 plus that extra 30% on top of that comes to $117,000. And of that total, the Broad program is footing $29,700 of that.
So just shy of $30,000.
Yeah. So that's about 25% of the overall money.
So taxpayers on the hook for a little over $87,000.
You got it.
First of all, I'm in the wrong business. I need to be a Broad Academy member, apparently.
Well, what's better, being a Broad Academy graduate or hanging out on unpaid administrative leave for like 3 years?
I don't know. They're both pretty good.
They're
both pretty good. Either way, I need to get a job with the Knox County school system is what I need to do.
Just as long as you're not a teacher.
No, I don't want to actually work. I want to do what I'm doing now. I don't want to work. So you got the whole question with we're hiring this Broad member, $117,000, taxpayers footing, $80 grand, a little over $80 grand of his money, and then on top of that, we're at budget time. $30 million for a Gibbs school, and then whatever it's going to cost to the Hardin. What does it? Do either of y'all know? Because we're trying to get answers for this, and even the mayor wasn't sure when we had Knox County mayor on the other day. Why is the cost of the Gibbs location almost double that of the Hardin Valley location? Because we keep hearing, well, Hardin Valley, they have land out there,
right?
But from what we understood from the Mayor Burchett's under the assumption too that they had land out in Gibbs already as well.
I don't know if they do or not.
Parents are saying they do.
They do.
Yeah.
Do they own the land? I don't know.
I guess they do. I guess they do.
I don't know if it's buildable or not. I mean, I'm not saying one or the other. I thought, how much is Hardin Valley going to cost? Because I think they approved it up to $25 million. I don't think they necessarily said it will cost $25 million. Because I believe that they built Carter. You know, when you start putting all the incidentals and the furniture and fixtures and all that in, you know, they say they built Carter for 12 or 13, but I think it was more like 18 or 19 million. So these buildings are expensive.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they're saying they want basically what's going to end up costing $60 million over the next 20 years.
Okay, now what that is, and when you read how McIntyre worded that, he was talking about the bond indebtedness.
Okay.
And so it's $60 million if you were to take out bonds to build this school. That includes the interest and everything. So the payoff over 20 years would be $60 million, and that's not unusual.
Sure.
That's just his way of saying, and he's not wrong. It's sneaky, but he's not wrong. You build most schools by issuing bonds.
Sure.
So this Hardin Valley, yeah, technically that's probably $60 million too.
Yeah.
But that's bond money that's been allocated for it. So it would, if you were to just take out $30 million for a Gibbs school, you would end up probably paying that.
$60 million back over 20 years.
But it's the same if you took out $30 million to build a library or something like that. It's just how the numbers work out.
Problem with me looking at it, though, is that the fact that, we've already had problems, what was it, last year when the whole credit card thing came up. We're dealing with a group of people that, when you start talking about interest paid and penalties and stuff on long-term bonds, they already showed they have a problem actually paying their bills off anyways and running up interest and penalty fees on credit cards they can't pay. I don't want to give them $30 million worth of bonds for 20 years.
Yeah, well, that would actually be monitored by the county finance department, and then it would be put out in the budget under the schools to pay for. But I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't pay off $5,000, how could you pay off $30 million?
There seems to be a growing trust gap here. I mean, just overall, when we're talking to people, when we're talking to people in the community, parents, teachers, and then you go to the administration and everything in the AJ building, there seems to be this trust gap that's starting to form. I don't think people trust what's coming out of the AJ building, and it just seems to be growing more and more. And now we had, like this morning, we had this thing with this Survey Monkey junk. I mean, what is going on?
I don't know if there's. I mean, I think the trust gap started a couple of years ago or almost 2 years ago, when Lauren Hobson, the teacher, her video went viral when she went after the administration.
Yeah.
And it started getting picked up, and then into this so-called teacher revolution or whatever.
Yeah, the teacher revolt.
Revolt, when and I think as more and more issues came to light, that's when it happened. Or and it could have even started a little bit before when we had the school security issues.
Yeah.
When it came out that the superintendent hadn't advised the board, but at that point the board was still rubber stamping everything he asked for. So it was a little bit of the school security, a little bit of Lauren Hobson. I think the election too. It's just, but I don't know if the gap's gotten any bigger. I just think that's kind of how it formed. I think the size of the gap's probably the same as it was now as it was last year.
It seems to me it's just becoming more defined. I mean, because it seems like it's a never-ending stream. Whether it's school security, whether it's shady stuff going on with the food department, and we saw what was going on there. You saw you had Needham, that whole situation.
Right.
The Tina Needham situation. I mean, it's like one thing after another, after another, after another. I'm just wondering when it stops.
Right. Well,
when people have enough of it.
That's up to the Board of Education.
Yeah.
They come in spurts. They do. I said that the other day. I mean, you see. You see the media coverage the past week.
Yeah.
Things die down, they come back up. It's like any topic, really.
We're talking this morning with Mike Donila and Becca Habegger from WBIR, and we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we have a couple of texts coming in. If you have a question, 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. We appreciate them stopping by this morning. They're very, very busy. And as you can hear, we're busy here. We got stuff. Trey's out there, and Mike Donila. WBIR.com, our news partner, and of course you can catch Becca and Mike's work at WBIR. They do fantastic work, as well as everybody there at WBIR. We appreciate the work you all do. Patty weighing in a little bit. Patty Bounds weighing in on the text box. She said she thought most middle schools are around 30 million, elementary 15 million. Yeah, and then the 60 million is 60 over 20 years, I guess. And that's what Mike was talking about that a little bit. And then she wanted to remind us, apparently out in Gibbs they have 64 acres. Hardin Valley, they own 15 acres. So they do have land. In fact, they have almost, 4 times as much land out in Gibbs.
Okay, I don't know. I mean,
And if I recall from that story I did a couple weeks ago, or a week ago or so, out in Hardin Valley, only 11 of those are you can build on. So
Really?
I think that's going to be a smaller footprint, that school out there.
Well, here, if you got a 64-acre footprint out in Gibbs, how about you sell off some of the land and use some of that money to fund building the new school? Maybe. I think you could probably build a nice school on 32 acres of land.
I think you could sell the AJ building, take some of the money and buy trailers and put them out on the land, and then move the administration there. Put the AJ building back onto the tax roll. What do you think you get for that building? Like $20 million?
At least a couple bucks.
It's that's just a suggestion.
That's a fantastic idea.
I like that idea.
That's a fantastic idea, and then have them work out of trailers. That'd be good. Sure, that'd be good for them.
Good for the students. There's students in trailers, right?
There are a few of them. There are a few, and some occasionally they even have trailers that have either a window or possibly even some air conditioning.
Oh, okay.
Occasionally, and sometimes that air conditioning actually works. Let's see. Richard says, as a software developer, the fact that Knox County Schools is using such a flawed solution for such an important issue really makes me question whether or not they want us to have any input at all. And they're using SurveyMonkey. Look, I don't put together a lot of surveys, but when I have done some in the past, there are many other things you can use besides SurveyMonkey that are actually, secure. But Richard says, as a parent, he's a parent, it just plain ticks him off.
How many times has Richard voted?
I think he's up to 25 right now, so he's trying. And that's the thing. You can go onto the survey and vote as many times as you want. You don't even have to be in Knox County, because all it does, the only required question that it asks you to answer is, what is your relation to Knox County Schools? Are you a student? Are you a teacher? Are you an employee? Et cetera, et cetera. But the problem is, because it's on an open web survey system, there's no way to check that. And you can go on and vote as many times as you want. And we all know nobody ever lies on a survey. No. Everyone on the internet tells the truth 100% of the time. Mike on the text box says, McIntyre reminds me of Hillary Clinton. He needs to go and go now, but he can't because he's loaded. Chico says the private schools will thrive by not adopting a balanced calendar. And Kurt says, are you sure they're not trying to push Codex Alimentarius Agenda 21? I'm not sure. It seems like they're pushing some sort of Hegelian dialectic, though, where you have problem, reaction, solution. Here's the problem. Kids aren't learning enough. We'll have your reaction. Here's the solution. Well, balanced calendar.
You know what I was thinking? One question that was not on there, and I know we joke a lot, is so they're pushing the balanced calendar. That's obvious. I mean, McIntyre's been very clear for years that he wants it, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. But I think one of the questions in the opportunity they missed was on that monkey survey was to ask, what don't you like about a balanced calendar? Yeah. You get that answer, and then you could start working toward your end goal, which is the balanced calendar. And again, I don't know. I was initially against it because I thought it was more like a year-round calendar.
Sure.
And I talked to the superintendent and some of the board members that do support it. And I kind of thought, this isn't a bad idea. And I would love it if I was a student. But the way it's being pushed down our throats now, now I'm wary of it. Now I just wonder. It's that natural you know, the glass is half full. Why are you doing it like this? What happened here? So there's some kind of disconnect, and that's what's making me wary of it.
Well, yeah, because it seems like they're trying to run some sort of end around all the time.
Okay? Right.
We're going to hold open forum meetings, but we're going to make it as confusing as possible so you don't know when to come. We're going to give you a survey that really is going to do nothing but supply invalid data through the survey.
Yeah, you know, I really think that the general public would be on board with this if not for the shenanigans that are getting, because that's where you lose the trust. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, and that's the thing is I've known parents who've had their kids in balanced calendar situations, and I've known students. I've worked with students that have been in balanced calendar situations, and I mean, granted, it's change, and nobody likes change. Nobody likes change, and people fight against change. But the thing is once you actually get all the information and start looking at it, sometimes you go, hey, this isn't too bad.
Right.
And the people I know that have been through it, yeah, it was difficult at the start to get it switched over. But once they're in it, they say, hey, this isn't that bad. And yeah, you know, if you're able to take those intercession times and actually do something with them. But that's one of the big questions. You have these intercession periods, but they're not required.
Yeah. The other thing that hasn't been said is how much money will this cost too? And I'm hearing all sorts of high numbers.
Well, the scary thing I've heard, the scariest thing is I heard, it's either going to be $0 up to $20 million.
I've heard up to 10, but it's not going to be 0. I can guarantee. No. Yeah, that's not going to happen because they're going to be calling in teachers and employees to work some of the weeks off. So no, there's a cost to it.
And plus, I mean, with these intercession periods, you know, the kids that need the most help from these intercession periods, the kids that would get the most help from these intercession periods, if it's not required that they be there, guess what? They're probably not going to be there. There's probably not going to be a way to get them there. So then you end up having this intercession period where you have a paid employee there teaching these periods. What happens if you hold school and nobody comes? That's what you're going to have in these intercession periods. You'll have a handful of people. You get some really good small class sizes because the problem is the people that need the most help probably aren't going to do
They would probably bring in a teaching coach. And then the teaching coach would write up the teacher for not properly teaching the students.
That's right, and it would come off their apex later on.
Absolutely.
That's how you pay for it. That's how you pay for it. And then, of course, you foot the taxpayer.
Save money doing that, right?
I think so. Yeah. I think so. You can save millions by doing that. Malchus in the text box saying these idiots are great for promoting homeschooling. The board needs to repeal Dr. Dipstick and take away his credit card before the parents and taxpayers start a lynch mob. And that's the thing. I mean, we're hearing this more and more. We're hearing people just very upset with what's going on in this idea of we don't get actual answers to any questions. We just get, and it seems like we keep getting the runaround on everything. We keep getting the runaround on everything. Becca, as it comes to this question with this board fellow and this $90,000, what do you see as the outcome of this in the long run? I mean, what's going to happen here? I mean, you've got the law director saying, okay, this. You got superintendent saying, no, this. What ends up being the outcome here?
Sure. Well, I think it's going to be maybe less explosive than our imaginations could take it to. I mean, the law director basically says, in his opinion, the contract, the agreement is unenforceable. So unless something comes up, it's probably just going to kind of finish out at the end of its term, which is the end of July. Yeah. I think the real outcome we're probably going to see from this is at the next board meeting, they're going to bring up this policy. Patty Bounds told me she'd like to see in the future, maybe at every meeting, the board go through policy by policy, just kind of reviewing old policies, because I think we've seen in the last couple of weeks between the evaluation clause in McIntyre's contract, now this Broad resident agreement and the signing of that agreement, that there are some policies perhaps that the current law director doesn't think are lawful.
Sure.
That maybe were approved by the law director's office before Armstrong came in.
Yeah.
Because some of these things have their origin pre-Armstrong.
Sure. And you brought up another point. That was something that slipped my mind as well. The whole discussion that happened last week and the week before about the evaluation, the superintendent's evaluation, and the fact that we've got this clause here that basically says that he has to be not only part of the evaluation process, but he has to agree, I guess, to how the process is done. How did this get through anybody's? How did this get through anybody's passage in the fact that, okay, here, we're going to go ahead and evaluate you every year, but you have to agree, you have to absolutely agree to how we evaluate you before we can evaluate you. So that just tells me, hey, if I really want to go ahead and just kind of go ahead and ride and not do anything, I can just go ahead and keep saying I don't agree with the way the evaluation is done, and eventually I'll just write out my contract.
How did it get through?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. The board approved it. It's interesting. The
Did anybody read it before they approved it?
Oh, you don't read.
Apparently, the former law director did.
Actually, the superintendent prior to McIntyre had a similar clause in there, but there was a caveat to it that I believe the board could just go ahead and overrule the superintendent. And so with this, I get that you want to be able to control your evaluation. I mean, it can get political, and you don't want them to just set up these impossible standards that you can't reach. I get that, but you can't have a super veto. I mean, a super majority veto. You cannot allow that, just flat out. So I think I like the idea of how they had it before. I think they should be allowed to work together in this.
Sure.
I mean, these aren't, we joke that, hey, I can't tell my boss, I can't go out and get an attorney and tell my boss what to do for an evaluation. And I know I've made that joke, but this is a different thing. These are different positions. It's a different role. It's government, so it's automatically weird. And we can expect it. And so that said, I do think that, okay, fine, let them have some input. I mean, let's be on the same page. But at the end of the day, he works for them, so they're the ones that should have the veto, not the employee. And so, how do we get to it? It was a very this was their top. The board at the time, this was their top pick, or at least a majority of them, and they gave him whatever he wanted. And hey, it's a great contract. I don't fault the guy for signing it. I mean, I would have signed it, So
Absolutely, I want a contract like that.
And so he negotiated well and got a good deal. And so it was just 5 members. It was a close vote, as I recall. Picked him and voted. That wouldn't happen today, I don't think. I think there's more attention. There's the media has more of an interest now in what's going on in the schools and the shenanigans and stuff. So I don't think something like that on any level of government actually would happen. So.
So an interesting point about Patty Bounds. She's the chairperson of the committee tasked with reevaluating the evaluation, right? And she just said basically for any superintendent, whether McIntyre or a future superintendent, she believes that, as a former educator herself, the evaluation should be slightly more, not exactly, but slightly more in line with what the teachers see.
Absolutely.
There's a rubric, there's a point system. The current superintendent evaluation is much more of a narrative. McIntyre submits how he thinks he's doing, the board members submit how they think he's doing, and they kind of collaborate and talk about it, and that's that. So she has also said that it was never their intention to disclude McIntyre from the process. This memo from the law director sort of brought to light a lot of questions. Would he ever exercise that clause? Just the fact that it's there has raised some questions. Sure.
Well, we appreciate the guy the time y'all spent with us this morning. We know that you guys are very, very busy, but you can always catch their work at WBIR.com, and we thank you very much, Becca Habegger, for coming in, and of course Mike Donila. Yeah, we like you too, Donila.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, Becca, you're welcome back anytime. Mike,
very much.
Got a call before you come back. But no, we appreciate it. You always catch Mike's work as well on screamsfromtheporch.com. Fantastic blog, and what a great thing to have here, and of course the fantastic work from our news partner WBIR, WBIR.com. Find them online, find them on your TV, and you'll find them wherever any news is happening. It's WBIR. Becca and Mike, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Quick break.